Risotto is one of those things that you should know how to make. It's simple, it's crazy delicious, and we're showing you today. And we hope we don't F it up. And by we, obviously, I mean me. It's been a while since I've made risotto. Apparently at the beginning of this, I was saying risotto, and I think it's because I'm Canadian. There's a strong British influence in Canada, and I think that's where it comes from. Risotto. Excuse me, John, is the risotto on the menu this evening? I think that's where it comes from. Max gets all bent out of shape when I say things like that. Don't you, buddy?
Yes.
I don't know why. I'm your father. Just accept it. It's not complicated. It's going to happen right here in front of us. And apart from one thing, everything will happen in the pan. But that one little side thing will happen first. Then we go to the pan, then we make it, then we eat it. Simple. All right, we're going to be using fresh shiitakes in here, and they'll give delicious flavor. But to amp up that flavor a little bit, we're also going to use dried shiitakes. And it's not that the flavor will come so much from these shiitakes because they're just like these except dried, but it's the liquid that will be left behind that will go into the risotto that will help make this good. So here's what we do. We take a ladle of chicken stock, which we're going to be using to help plump up our rice for this, and we're just going to put it in here. And you do this about 10, 15 minutes before you want them, and they will begin to soften. Just give it a little bit more. It's great. Now, let that sit. You know, when you think about it, give them a little dunky dunk so that they all get covered. The broth is warm, by the way. These guys will soften and will be great. Next, we can start with everything in the pan. To our big saute pan, I'm going to put some olive oil in, about a tablespoon, and chopped shallots. It could be red onion, it could be yellow onion or white. I just had shallots, and I don't use them very often, and I quite like them. So we want these guys to soften. This is going to be a couple of minutes. Take your time. Okay, so the onions have softened nice. They're looking great. Now we're going to add the fresh shiitakes and start them on their journey. Maybe a little splash of olive oil to help them along. My heat is not too hot. I don't want anything to burn. Just soften, and we'll turn away from these for a second and give our attention to the rehydrating shiitakes. And they look like, stand by. Wow! Is he doing donuts up there? So you can see now, look, that's nice and soft, beautiful. So we'll just take these guys out, squeeze out the juice, save that. This is important stuff right here. These guys will now just slice them up, small pieces, and when you're done, put them in and give them a stir to introduce them to the rest of the family. Okay, that was dumb. All right, these get a couple more minutes, not much. Then it's time for some garlic. Tiny bit more olive oil, then a couple of cloves of garlic, like that. Great garlic press. Wait till it gets a little fragrant, and that's basically now. Mix it in. Now comes our rice, and that looks like this. That is arborio rice, ladies and gentlemen. It's the specific rice that you would use for making risotto. There's one more. It starts with a C. I can't remember what the name is. I feel like I failed you a little bit.
Comment.
Go ahead, Sweats. Comment. Tell us no. Carnanelli. I've never been able to say it. Okay, who's ready for the one thing I've already forgotten today?
Me.
Okay, good. The one thing I've forgotten today, I want to put some sage in here. Sage is great. So I'm just going to rip it up. I mean, I would have ripped it up. I'm not ripping it up because I forgot it. I'm ripping it up because that's what I would have done. I did forget it, but I'm just saying. I don't want you thinking I'm ripping it up because I forgot it. I'm not. Did that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, because in my mind, so just, you know, whatever. Just a little handful of leaves. I mean, I probably would have added it some point after the mushrooms before the rice, but we're okay here. Give it a little love. Don't forget, there's a lot of broth coming, and it's gonna now live in with the broth and all this, and the flavor will come out. Okay, after a couple of minutes of the rice being in here, now we can start adding our broth. About a ladle at a time. You want the rice to slowly absorb the broth and become luxurious. The thing about risotto is that it's meant to be smooth and beautifully kind of creamy without cream being added to it. And the way you get there is by slowly adding the broth. So you put it in and you wait for the rice to absorb it until you add the next one. There's cheese coming down the road, but not yet. And you can see, right? When you do this, you see there's hardly any liquid left. My heat is not too hot. We'll add another one. Instead of straight broth this time, we're gonna go with this leftover mushroom liquid for some bigger flavor. And now you're just standing and you're doing this. This is very cathartic, something to do when you've had a bad day, the kids are screaming, your other person is screaming, pour yourself a glass of wine if that's your thing, make a cocktail, get a podcast in your ears, and just stand and make risotto. Or risotto if you're in Shakespeare's England. All right, it's time for another ladle. It's also time for the second thing I forgot today, which is a little vermouth that I would have added just after the rice was in and it was toasting. So I'll add it now, like 3 tablespoons or so. We'll let this start to evaporate. Tell you it's smelling good, that's for sure. All right, I think it's time for another ladle. Like, it's not the most exciting thing happening. Nobody's running in your house going, oh look, Neil's making risotto, everybody come crowd around. But it's still delicious and fantastic, right? Look, it's drying up again. Let's give it some more. Let's give it some more ladle love. So there's always this question, how much broth goes into the risotto? And the answer is, until it's perfect, which isn't much of an answer. However much rice you have, 3 to 4 times that. I will probably, for this 1.5 cups of rice, end up using between, say, 5 and 6 cups of broth. So have extra warming beside you. And then you get to the point where you take a taste with a spoon of a couple grains of the rice. If it's hard, you're nowhere near it. You want them to be very soft. Beth, my assistant over there, reminds me that people get booted off of these cooking shows all the time, the competition shows, for serving hard, crunchy risotto. Just because it looks good doesn't mean it is good. You have to taste. All right, time for more broth, by the way. Everybody gets coated, everybody. Don't just put a ladle in and leave it. Put a ladle in and then expose all the rice grains to it. That's the way that they're gonna get soft and plump. We're getting there. A couple more ladles, I think, and we're good. We're here and almost at the perfect spot. And while you want the risotto to be smooth and creamy, you don't want it to be mushy. So the term will be al dente, like pasta, still a little bite to it. Here's how we're gonna get this guy ready to be finished. We're gonna add maybe a half a ladle of broth, the last of it almost, some butter that will start to melt in and make this gorgeously creamy, about 1.5 teaspoons of truffle oil, just for a little gorgeous richness, and I promised cheese, and now we have it in the form of Parmesan, and away we go. You know, when you've got a nice dish like this, slowly made, quality ingredients, this is not the time for Parmesan that comes, not the time for Parmesan that comes out of a green can. There's a place for that. That's really right here. So this is maybe 1/3 of a cup. We're gonna come back at the end with a little more, but now this all starts to get mixed in. Oh my goodness. The smell of the truffle, the cheese that just hit the top of this is now turning into a glorious, glorious dish. Let's bring everything together. We haven't seasoned, so let's go with a little salt and pepper at this point. And you know, cheese is pretty salty, so I like to wait till I get here before I season. This is gorgeous. See the way it relaxes. This is what you want. If you draw your spatula through and it stays separated like Moses parting the Red Sea, that's not what you want. You want that. You want a B-52 overhead and your risotto to start to climb back in on itself. One quick taste. Let us know if we're there. Holy shit. Holy shit. All right, let's figure out what we're gonna put this in because we're not sure yet, but it's gonna be good. There we are. Back on Black. Hey, is that a Stones album, right? Okay. Sorry?
Back in Black?
Is it Back in Black? Back in Black?
Not Back on Black, I know that.
Is it AC/DC?
Yeah.
AC/DC, Back in Black. Yeah?
Back in Black.
All right, so only 2 things now. Some more parm everywhere, because this is how you really want to finish it, beautifully. And of course, a tiny little bit of parsley. Damn, 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 son. So, silky, creamy, mushroomy, and gorgeous. Shall we? We shall. But before I take a bite, allow me to read something. This is 2 comments that followed up the 45-day dry-aged video. Ashes writes, Max is the only guy I've ever heard complain about a piece of steak being too big. Go watch the episode if you haven't seen it. And Diana Nutman says, I really liked the Guga-esque tasting with all three of you at the end. I'd love to see more of that in future videos, but with more than just steak, because we have tasted steak before. So, Chancey, Maxie, you're good with this camera. Chancey, come taste with me.
Howdy.
Howdy, how are you?
Well.
So get yourself some.
I
Absolutely.
get some of the rehydrated.
Yes,
And the,
that's a
the
good
OG.
call.
All right, Sam. Cheers.
Bon appetit.
That's insane.
It's a little time consuming, but it's worth it.
So worth it. Oh my God, the truffle oil that you put on there. Wow.
Look, we could have used, I guess we could have used real truffles.
Everybody look at Chance's wetsuit tan line.
Going strong
Wow,
right now.
it's really good.
Yeah, I had to go for another bite.
So I think the addition of the little truffle oil at the end makes it reasonably priced, because you're not buying whole truffles. Gives you that flavor. And there's lots of snotty people that say, no, truffle oil. I love it. I love it in
Dude,
here.
I can't stop. Thank you. Amazing.
Thank you. All right. There you go. Uh-oh. Couldn't help it.
Don't mind me.
Had to get it. How good is that?
Oh my God.
It's delicious. We'll be eating this as soon as the camera goes off in 3, 2,